welcome back to part 2. What's the Japanese delegation doing here? Oh, Inspector Gregson. This isn't on tourist trial, I'm fairly sure you're well aware. Yes, well, of course. We're here to investigate. So you've been to the holding cells then? What do you make of the criminal? He's not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect. Huh. We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion. If you're on YouTube, please comment on how terrible my English accent is. The stone cold air and rejection. Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone cold air. That makes it worse somehow. It sucks. Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place. The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know, I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part, seeing the policeman there with his helmet on. You certainly get some sense that a man who has taken no nonsense in his duty protecting the city. Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful? Being a London Bobby is hard going, I could tell you. Oh, really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes round and rounds all the laborers in his beat so they can get off to work. What? He wakes people up? Yep. Raps on the windows with a long pole. Did it myself going back a bit. I had no idea. The Bobby works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. Holy shit! I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Oh, it's long. But like 24... That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot. That's definitely taking things a step too far. When it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas. I think that's 2.24? Important job of lighting all the gas and street lamps. Oh my. And I suppose between all those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well. And chase after criminals trying to evade the law. I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well, having been keeling over from time to time, I admit. I've always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Your heavy heart will be in my heavy head if you do. It happened at around 5 in the evening 2 days ago, just there on that open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with the blade from behind. It's right that the lady is still unconscious now. You mentioned that she's being treated in the hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find much about her at all. Suppose that means I haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Really? Are you sure? It's Yard policy to give lawyers defending suspects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted a job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. Local map has been entered in the court record. Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Natsume is also claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be so sure that nobody else was present. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure. How? Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. It what? We have two very reliable witnesses, no less. It was typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see him. There were witnesses now. Who are those witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. Oh! A policeman? That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked. Nothing peculiar about that, man. Part and parcel of being a bobby, catching them bang and act all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask the policeman a few questions? Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. Oh. I have no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. That's funny, because if you're witnessed by a cop and your duty as a bobby and as an investigator and as a policeman, on and off duty is to catch criminals, could this Japanese man really get away from a fully grown English cop unless he was in an inconvenient position when it happened? A policeman witnessed the incident, and your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me about that too. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect. I hear that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes. What are you bringing him up for? Was it something I said? The color has drained from his cheeks. I figure he must be like in a wheelchair or like on a cane or something. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, or the cops are really old. Makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though. Sorry. The Reaper, he hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear something about that effect. And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals, the violent ones. Master criminals? The violent ones? That's right. He handpicks his victims, only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. Oh, but Natsume wouldn't hang for that, what he's accused of, surely. That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the wrong woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be more to it. Some reason he's taking an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going inside that head of the Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again? Lord of Darkness, as he put it. What? Who did you hear that name from? He said that Mr. Sholmes was the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure as a result of one of Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fiddle faddle! The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing this mug everywhere. Oh, I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Gibble gabble. Ever seen this before? Oh yes, that's Rance magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Herlock Sholmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called Great Detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone in the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in Herlock Sholmes at all. Well, I suppose there's an element of that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to the obnoxious detective. The man's dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh, yes. What is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Natsume did blame Sholmes for all of this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. What makes him an involved party in the case? Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you it's not as simply my self-desire to meet with Sholmes again. The trouble is, we have no idea the man's address even. It's Baker Street. Huh? How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We better try to find our way out there before Susato-san gets more excited and unpredictable. Isn't Baker Street where the actual Sherlock Holmes actually is, too? I'll summon a carriage. So, we're gonna have a reunion already. The great detective, Sherlock Holmes. None of the above. I'm interested. Well, I'll have to find out in court, though. Animated cutscene.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day.
Good day.
Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Mr. Naruhodo's voice does not match my internal voice of him, and it bothers me. Because he is a Japanese man. Clearly. It's plot that he's Japanese. Like, I could get Phoenix right, maybe. But he's clearly Japanese. They should give him an... It doesn't. No, it doesn't. If you've ever heard any Japanese person speak English, it would be much different. 19th February, Shulman suit. There's a lot of shit here. So where this great detective makes his living, it feels surreal to be here somehow. Is it as described in the stories as Susato-san? Susato-san. She's so happy. Many, many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read stories, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears in the fog down in the Union London Street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please, don't mind me. Huh, she's obsessed. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anyone home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello, it's a big new case for Sholmes. Hello. You. Aren't you? Oh, how rude of me. I'll go and make some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Miss Sato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Sholmes to take on his case. He's out of it, man. True, the King of what? King Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Amestein, of course. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment, and look over here. The tea's brewed, and I have freshly baked the cake as well. Ah, it's you! I knew it. Sada-san recognizes her too. Ah, there you are. And taking that with you as well, I was looking forward to the trial of one of my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I'm the inventor, I suppose, of the machine. The girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilder's trial in the defendant's antechamber. I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea, it's my special blend, you know. Oh, and thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's winter. I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Hurley. Sholmes to you, Shirley. Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? Wait, is she the genius? And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? Nice curtsy. It is a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson.
Can her name not be Iris, please?
I live here together with Hurley. Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, what's this? It can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Sasato-san? You have one game without Iris as a name of one of the leading females. I don't want to think of that fucking bitch. Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? Yes, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, I'm in a second lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm it's wonderful to meet you. She is almost present in all 3 games and is a major character. Don't try to pretend. Lovely, Susie and Luno got it. She is pretty much the whole reason he's even there. And Runo, there's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her, I don't know where to start. So do I. Arguably, Iris's case is the most important case in the trilogy, man. She's damn important, man. Wrapped up in all of it. I know you're going, technically there's 2, but it matters. Alright, let's go. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey. Yes, that's right, you're ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh no, not at all, I'm sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. There it is. Like this? Ah, thinking back now. You left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Ginny. Yeah, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very not of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to that trial-disrupting, gun-like contraption? Exactly, so I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Herlock. Herlock Sholmes. We live here together. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter, not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Holmes? Well, I expect you found out in the lodgings of any kind of London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Oh, okay. Roommates. I hope you didn't mind asking me, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at least this year. Well, what of your mother and father? Oh no, they're not around. Oh, I see. I wonder what the story is there. Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Yeah, of course, Go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of the adventurer Sherlock Holmes, and... Oh, you have a copy of Rand's magazine? Yes, and I read over every issue. Delivered all the way to Japan on ship. Oh, this is so exciting. My stories are just being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Hurley is also always solving amazing cases, you see, and he tells me about them. They really are quite fascinating. It'd be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness, she's an author at 10. Last night he was telling me all about a new case he just solved in a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. We're going to be in the Rand's magazine. So you are the author. Yes, I'll let you on a secret if you like. I'm going to call the latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band, that's certainly very familiar. Of course, I've always changed one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but... It's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? So do you mean to say, are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Rand's magazine? I guess it would be okay if the snake was at fault, but that would still make her guilty. All written by me, yes, only a wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read, but that would paint our solution as wrong. Written by the Doctor of Medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. The title sounds getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name's really Wilson. But what about the Doctor of Medicine part? That's all true, too. I am a Doctor of Medicine. No, at 10 years old. At 10 years old. Well, that's quite incredible. But, Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly for the stories to be more compelling. Huh? Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? Great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Of course, it's Sada-san. She looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. About before. Yes, what's on your mind, Bruno? Do tell me. How did you know that I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean? Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although, there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present her Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. First of all, I knew already that you're a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said that we only just arrived in London. How did you know that? I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Wait. Sherlock Holmes just builds all the inventions that she uses. She's the smart one. He shares the information with her, she does a deduction, and then they found the Japanese guy through that. So I was reasonably confident that you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against a particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a running stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you, earlier today? Ah. They use those stamps to keep a close eye on the comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me, even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGildred, the two of you had already caused to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how could you have known that a trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. Obviously amused him. He told me that he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. Japanese man. Well, clearly it must have been Mr. Natsume. Now, Runo has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Man. The video games and animation don't do kimonos justice for what they look like. I actually think kimonos are more beautiful in person. If you go and look at them. They're also expensive, as I found out. It's clear to me that you both came from Japan yourself, so I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. Wow, actually good reasoning. There is a note to me. What does seven head mean? There is a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you see. He's silly. And there is to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. An actually good deduction. So is she like the detective that's always right, and then he's the detective that's always wrong? Well... Was it a winner or were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to assert something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. That is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, of course, please? So yesterday, Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying. Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after a sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, this great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently a woman was stabbed on the quiet street and somewhere in town. There are witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking, stooped man. Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt. Seki-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all. But it seems there were witnesses after all. Hurley used his great detective powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear. Ah, Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. Of course it did, he's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh, Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on the top of it, apparently. Oh dear, I hadn't really realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying to criminalize in court. Staff and money are both short, crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is, but in that case, I don't hold out on much hope for Saseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. Tis had been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about the case as well. Ah, well, I expect Hurley is still investigating the scene. Of that case involving Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Nuts. Oh, I mean, Ome. Hurley was going to say, going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Goody, in that case. Give Gregsy this from me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you where you want to know. What is it? A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. Iris' postcard has been entered into the card record. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, wouldn't it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck, then. I'm going to return writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime. So, somewhat dubious in that they would exert any influence of the men of Scotland Yard at all. We headed back to the scene with Iris' curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Looks as though the police are still there, carrying on with their investigation. Perfect, so let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible. Yes, and let's see if he'll take a break from his chips to look at that silver tip Iris gave. I like her signature. Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment? I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Much too busy to talk to a pair of foreign groundabouts, that's for sure. We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson. What? For me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship? Give that here, at once. Come on, hand it over. That's for me. Don't wait for me to give it to you with you, will you? What was that coin exactly? It's a silver crown, obviously. But it's a lot more than that. It's, well, an appearance fee. That's what it is. An appearance fee. Oh, I see you mean. That's right, for the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Her ladyship always offered me a little financial reward for featuring me. Every time. Yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly. Of course. Her using my name without my say-so does make me the butt of a lot of unpleasant jokes, but still. I'm sorry, Inspector, that must be difficult for you. Never mind that. So, what do you want to know then, eh? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem, as it says. Well, obviously it's not a problem. Go on, fire away. What did you want to know? Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector, we'd very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Ah, the little knife-wielding, mustache Japanese fellow? He lives in a right old hovel. It's just over there. Look. That is nearby indeed. If I remember rightly, the landlord is Mr. John Gerdib. Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure you give her ladyship my regards, you hear? I mean it, you tell her. That Gregson sends his very best wishes. Don't worry, Inspector, we will. Goodbye for now, then. And long live her ladyship. Well, at least he told us what he wanted to know before he left. Yes, so then, shall we go and see what he can find in Mr. Natsume's lodgings? Definitely. May I help you? Yes, would this be the residence of Mr. John Garrett? Indeed it would, sir. And who, may I say, is calling? My name is Runasing Naruhodo. I am Naruhodo is representing Shiseki Natsume. I believe he takes the logics here. I wasn't. Would very much like to ask him some questions about our client. A moment, please. Don't convey the message to Mr. Garrett. Oh my lord! Holy crap! I wasn't ready for that character model. As opposed to jumping out a window, you jumps out a window. You see that, Mr. Sasato? That was a real life English maid. I know, as I understand it, anyone outstanding in English society employs a number of household staff. But that was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this day keeps getting better. Certainly feels like we really arrived now, doesn't it? We need only meet a butler, and the experience will be complete. Well, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for waiting. Mr. Garrett, we'll see you now. This way. Good day to you, John Garrett, at your service. It looks like a moon, man. Pleased to meet you, sir. This is Runaseki Naruhodo. He is a defense lawyer. Do you excuse me not getting up? Took a shot to the knee a few years back in the Battle of Meiwan, don't you know? Is he the police officer? Earned a medal for my pains, but I had to withdraw from service. Handed over the reins to up-and-comings. So he's a retired soldier. It's a hell of a job getting up and down the stairs now, I can tell you. Don't get out too much, as you can imagine. Yes, it's quite a climb up there to the second floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. You really must take more exercise, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, do you think so? Well, Mr. Garrett, no doubt you were the very courageous throwing yourself a medal. Oh, it was nothing. The medal's just a folder, really. Wouldn't like to offend the general, though, so I grudgingly displayed it on the wall. Why don't you fetch it down, Joan? Let these good people see it properly. Joan, fetch... Dash it all, woman. Be careful. Oh, dear me, I do beg your pardon, sir. You jolly nearly took the skin off my hands. I'll be more careful, sir. So anyway, there you have it. Living the quiet life now. Yes, I see. Now then, I hear you'll want to know about the chap lodging downstairs, is that right? Yes, we would be very grateful if you could answer some questions for us. Only too pleased, naturally, especially it helps keep the peace here in Blightly. We forged an alliance. Who stirs their tea with a fucking... with the Empire of Japan recently, I'm sure you're aware. This case is very much in the public eye, as it were. Oh, is it? You even had some famous detective poking around, you know, in this old house, would you believe? Yes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Oh, could have been. Didn't catch the chap's name. Not really my cup of tea. All that detective business. Oh, but you have a copy of Rant's magazine here, so? No, Anyway, the chap's investigating the foreigner's room as we speak. So he's in Saseki-san's room. It's a bally nuisance, that's what it is. The whole neighborhood's twitching its curtains now. I don't like all this fuss. It's jolly unsettling. About Natsume then, Mr. Garrett. Please do tell us. Ah, yes, a Japanese chap. Only been lodging here for a week. Oh, just 1 week? So you moved in very recently then? I have 2 lodgers most of the time, one on the ground floor and one just below us. The first floor room became available a week ago. You see there'd been... Dash it all, Joan. Do be careful. Oh my goodness, I'm terribly sorry, sir. You want to know my opinion? I thought he was a shady sort of man from the moment I set eyes on him. Oh, why? He seemed to have a most nervous disposition, always shaking, looking over his shoulder. The man had shady written all across his sweat-soaked brow, if you ask me. I said to myself, Joan, the man is trouble. Sooner or later, he's going to do something untoward. And I'm rarely wrong about anything. We won't be calling this maid as a witness, that's for sure. Was there anything else that struck you as suspicious about the man at all? Yes, oh yes. Indeed there was. She's dying to tell us. Had you noticed anything else at all about your lodger, Natsume? Oh my word, yes. The man was shadier than an orchid. Could you elaborate? Well, take the man's room, absolutely stuffed full of books it is, more than anyone could ever read. And he's never must have passed his time of day with another living soul. I haven't seen a single visitor call. He just trots off in the old bookshop every single day, and comes back at 5 to light the gas fire. And the funny little man is up to long past the time everyone else in the house has gone to bed too. Oh, I see. The gentleman on the ground floor seems to get to about around 9 each night. But I've never known that Japanese fellow to retire any earlier than 2 in the morning. Ah. Could you clarify something, I wonder? What, pray? How do you know so much about Mr. Natsume's routine? I understand that I'm neither the lodgers live on this floor of this house, is that correct? That's right, yes, they're both below us. On the first floor and the street level. Then how is it that you know so much about the lives of your lodgers? The precise times they come back in the evening, for example, even the times they go to bed. Good grief, Joan. Be more careful, woman. Oh my goodness, sir. I'm terribly sorry, sir. Something doesn't add up here. I'm very sus of both of them. It seems the incident took place about around 5 in the evening. Did you happen to look out the window at around that time? The window. Yes, we noticed that the window over there looks out over Briar Road. The incident took place on the pavement, just on the far side of the street. Was there anyone suspicious loitering nearby? 5 o'clock is dinner time in the Garradeba household, so I'm afraid I don't remember seeing anything. How about you, Joan? No, sir, it wouldn't have been dusk outside already in that hour. And with the fog as well, I should think it would have been quite impossible to see the other side of the road. Oh, I see. You notice anything else out of the ordinary, then? Such as? Anything at all, even if it seems unrelated. Well... Yes, was there something, then? There's nothing particularly significant, but around that sort of time in here, there... For the love of God, Joan, watch what you're doing. Oh, dearie me, what have I done? I'm awfully sorry, sir. Do be more careful, woman. Of course, sir. If I may, Mr. Narrow Hollow. Oh, yes. I have an exceedingly good memory, and as far as I remember, nothing of any significance took place here at that hour. Nothing at all. Oh, really, Mr. Garradeb? The way you were talking before, it sounded rather like there might have been. Oh, well, as I was saying, I was just trifling matter, really. Nothing of... Dash it all, what's the matter with you, woman? Begging your pardon, sir. Nothing happened. Yes, quite. Nothing happened. We sat down on a quiet, uneventful meal. Joan, that's right, Mr. Garradeb. What is the matter with these two? It sounds like something happened here, in this room, on the evening of the incident. But what? I wish I knew. Could you please tell us which floor Natsume's room is on? Why, certainly, just below us on the first floor. And Sholmes is investigating there, even as we speak? Yes. Told me Natsume's name and asked him to look into the matter, so I gave him the key. Natsume has engaged Sholmes' services. It's a blatant lie. Would it be alright if we also had a look around? In Mr. Natsume's room, I mean. I don't see why not. It's just down one flight of stairs. Who knows if we'll find anything the court could help us with in the case, but we have to try. We need all the clues we can lay our hands on, shall we? And while we're there, we can speak to Mr. Sholmes again. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us more. Look at that enormous screen. It must have been put there deliberately. Surely. Yes, it certainly seems like someone's trying to hide something from view. What could be behind it, I wonder? I'm going to have a very quick look. Just a little peek. Ahem, ahem. Maybe let's not, Susato. I think the maid is going to head us off with a cup of tea. Ahem, ahem. It's a full-size cannon. What's it doing in here? Oh my, it's real. I thought it might be a replica. That old thing, bah, that's a little more than a toy. Sorry? My army was selling it off when I retired, so I decided to give it a new home. Never know when the enemy might attack next. Jolly useful to have a cannon about the house. Really, it isn't. Overkill? Be prepared, I always say. You never know what this twisted world is going to throw at you next, boy. Do you think there may be trouble brewing, Mr. Garrett? Always is. Take Joan here. Never fails to have a clean apron in reserve. Drives them over a barrel, you see. They try very well in the cannon there, Joan tells me, which rather proves my point, I feel. It's been reduced to a drying rack. No wonder the huge cannon looks like it's hanging on its head in shame. Uniform looks fairly ancient, doesn't it? It's clearly been well looked after, though. That old thing, not much better than rags, really. Oh, wore that ceremonial garb at my retirement bash, you see. But I'm not one for dwelling on the past. Me would have gladly thrown it out, but you know how it is. Anyway, it doesn't hurt to have the old piece of memorabilia lying around, does it? Oh, I see. Perhaps we should leave it in the past. That looks like a Medal of Honor, and it's showcased on a very grand banner. Yes, it's displayed with some pride, I would say. Although it bothers me that it's not straight. What? That old thing? Sorry? I should be glad to see the back of it, but in general it would turn it grave if I disposed of it. The walls is the best place for it, keeps the bally thing out of my way. Which has been polished to shine by accident, I suppose. There appears to be an inscription on the medal itself. Look, let me see. It says, for distinguished participation. Sounds like a kind of honor that even I would go be in line for. Well, one doesn't like to blow one's trumpet, but I was given that for my time in the army. Can't measure an officer by the number of medals on his name, of course. Common knowledge in military circles. Portrait of Mr. Garrett is glaring at me. Have you noticed that all the little frames contain little photographic prints of Garrett as well? Yes, and there seems to be a statue of a lion on the mantelpiece as well. Ah, yeah, seemed to come back from the local pawnbroker with that little trinket. Seemed to come back? What do you mean? The chap who runs the place is a bally wizard. Went in to sell him something and he came out with that thing. And point, in fact, now I think about it, I rather often find myself leaving the place with something I don't need. The lion ornament certainly does seem surplus to requirements. Southtown doesn't pull her punches, or her throws for that matter. Ah, those mortar shells, they're enormous. Ah, I hadn't noticed. What are they doing here? Ah, the old things. A couple of little rounds I accidentally fired in the Baroque during training, you know. Became a bit of a colorful regiment folklore, that incident. You mean you deliberately hunted out the spent shells? Well, I wouldn't say deliberately exactly. They're only scrap iron after all, usually just thrown away, I believe. But you never know when things might come in useful, do you? Useful for what exactly? Yes, well... Joan here did manage to knock one of the bally things on my foot the other day while she was dusting. Oh no. Hadn't she shed a tear since 1869 before then, you know? Maybe reconsider throwing them away. Oh look, what a wonderful collection of cakes lined up on that gleaming silver cake stand. Lined up, it looks more like someone has half demolished them to me. Afternoon tea is a time of indulgence, you know. It's quite the English way. It is Mr. Gator's custom to take 2 cakes with his tea. That sounds delightful. Oh, wait a minute though. There are at least 10 cakes on this cake stand. Well, naturally, and it would never do to waste the leftovers. So whatever Mr. Gardup doesn't eat, I say to myself, Joan, you shall have to tidy up. How magnanimous of you. This old candle holder looks a little out of place here, wouldn't you say? Yeah, you're right, it's clearly supposed to be gold, but it's almost completely black for some reason. That old thing. Yes, it's a cheap piece of iron battery. Good rock color. Oh, used it when I was studying, don't you know? For my commission. I know it's old, hardly worth hanging on to, really. But, well, still has uses sometimes. Of course, does everything in this room have some elaborate story behind it? The memories, Nitsuharuhodo, memories. Look at this crocker on display here. It's rather unusual, isn't it? My, a genuine London dresser. Isn't it delightful? Although the shelves seem to be broken, and the crockery is, oh dear, it's in pieces. I really is. The word cracked wouldn't do that China word justice. Ah, I wonder. Perhaps the cannon was fired at it? Yes, probably something like that, but let's not delve in too deeply in here. Kitty! What? Just look at this place. And smell it. It's so musty in here. Suppose it's the mountains of old books that are reasonable for that. I don't think I've ever seen so many books in all my life. No, me neither. It's so dark in here, too. Is that the window over there? Well, it was the window, I think, yes. Once upon a time. But for some reason, it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Natsume lives. By the way, I haven't spotted Mr. Sholmes anywhere. Have you? No, that's true. But according to what Mr. Gardup told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere, investigating. Aww. Oh my, what an adorable little cat. Perhaps he's looking for all the books while looking after all the books while his master is away. I don't know about that. He disappeared into that pile of books as quick as a flash. It was a tricolor Mikey, wasn't it? Do they even have a sort of cat here in Great Britain? Perhaps Natsume brought the little creature with him from Japan. That's made me feel homesick now. Already? We've only been in the country for 2 days. I've investigated thoroughly, but I can't find anything out of place. Look at all those books stacked up there. They almost reach the ceiling. They're all works of English literature, and they all smell so musty. With this volume of books by hand, you'd never be short of reading material, wouldn't you? No, what a dreamy idea. A bad dream, maybe. For me, at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the book that is at the bottom of the pile now will ever be read again. Ah, so reading is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime, just as the tea ceremony teaches us. Certainly didn't expect the conversation to turn down the path of tea ceremony philosophy. That desk seems to be wedged in a crevice between the mountains of books on either side. Suppose Natsume would sit there and read while stroking his cat, but surrounded on all sides by these towering old tomes. Surely he's dreamt of books every night as well. Yes, he must have done, mustn't he? Oh, what's this? It's a receipt from the second-hand bookshop. Your books. Oh yes, Natsume's name is on it. Look, and the date of purchase. 2 days ago at 4:45. The day of the incident. That's just a short while before he was embroiled with the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying some old books. Ah, look, Naruhodo. Ah, there he is. Where did he appear from? He seems to be engrossed in the pages of an old book. I hope he won't mind if we disturb him. Hello, Mr. Sholmes.